Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We're back after a long 4-day, once again, 4-day weekend, 4th of July. Welcome to another edition of Fade to Black. Before I introduce my panel, I know that y'all saw that picture of that specialist and her family. From all of us here on the show, and me as a veteran and a soldier myself, I want to send my condolences out to that family, and that you're not. It's heavy on our hearts. Definitely, me as a soldier, seeing one go down, definitely in a very disgusting way. Whoever did this, hope they get the justice that they deserve. But once again, from everybody here on the show, our hearts and condolences goes out to that family. So now on to other things. Now I can introduce the panel. I got AKA Cheech, Miss Anita Joke. Welcome to the show. Beast Johnson. And then we got he's a recurring panelist on this show. Mr. O, welcome to the show.
Thank you for welcoming me.
Mm-hmm. So now let's go ahead and jump in. Y'all know it's y'all favorite segment in the world. It is our opening statements. And opening statements, I'm going to go ahead and go first. Yes, the host is volunteering to go first. So here we go. So the host decided to go first. I put out a video about Mr. Terry Crews and all that stuff. So I can't talk about that. First of all, I'm already messing up, people. The timer starts now. My opening argument is conspiracy theories. To be honest with you, conspiracy theories is why America is where it's at right now. Because we give it so much truth. We give it so much of our attention that we don't think about how dumb it sounds. So, for example, over this 4-day, I've been looking at nothing but like political stuff, what's going on with the protests and everything, and hearing people literally getting worked up because George Soros funds the freaking Black Lives Matter. He got a group that he runs that funds Black Lives Matter. And people are saying that that's a wrong thing. He's trying to go for a one world government and all that stuff. And all I say is, so what's the problem? What's the issue? If the man said that he sees a problem and he wanted to fund it and help it out, what's the issue? What's the problem with it? I see it as a plus. I see it as a good thing. Nobody wasn't talking about those Tea Party Republicans and Democrats from years ago that was funded by the Koch brothers. Do American Prosperity sounds familiar? Because they funded it. Majority of their freaking policies is the reason why the schools are as fucked up as it is right now. But y'all worry about that George Soros is funding a group that's pushing for equality for Black folks? fighting against police brutality. Think about that. And majority of these people that are complaining are look like me. And majority of the people on this panel. Think about what you're saying. And some of them, mainly the black conscious folks, are saying that George Floyd, that wasn't George Floyd that died. They'll even say that it's strange that his funeral was going from different place to place. Haven't you ever think that the places that his funeral was going to is places where he grew up, where he had an influence? It's just crazy to me how people, when they see something that's out of the norm, it's a conspiracy. It's something wrong with this picture. There's something behind it. It's a Illuminati and all that stuff. Why don't y'all do me a favor and have plenty of seats? Have the whole entire stadium full of seats and sit down and shut up. Because I'm going to tell you this. When Black Lives Matter prevail and get everything that we want on the table, human rights, wealth, the proper exchange of wealth, reparations, and then finally getting treated as a man for me, and for Teach to be finally treated as a woman. Don't be coming over there thinking that we owe you something. You was over there saying all that mess. Now go over there. Keep that same energy once we get everything we want. Keep that same damn energy. Because you're not just gonna one minute be against it, and then the next minute, because I'm black and I see racism every day. Now all of a sudden, we cool now. We cool in the game. Keep your happy ass over there. Stay with those conspiracy and see how far it gets you. Up next, take it away, Teach.
Aquaba, Nangadef, Jumbo, Mowini, Aguki. I greet you in the various African languages. Hello and welcome. My grandmother used to tell me that the same wind does not blow in the same direction all the time. In other words, a change is going to come. And that gives you hope for tomorrow. That if you agitate today, that truly tomorrow you can see a change. So the winds of change is upon our nation. When this first started, I don't think anyone knew how much or how powerful of an impact that George Floyd's death would have on the nation and the world. We see many statutes coming down, and in retribution, we're seeing statues of Martin Luther King, Frederick Douglass, and others that fought for freedom in the United States also being brought down. But that is the history of the dynamics of the racial tensions in the United States. It is the African American that pushes the envelope of diversity to bring about equality for all citizens of these United States. And it is other races that will strike back to keep us where they feel comfortable. But what I see overall, when I look at the statues and I think about the statues, and for those that know the Bible said that you will have no idols before you. So it takes my mind to a higher level as to what does it mean for these statues to come down. Should we glorify our past that was created in toil, blood, the destruction of culture, the snatching of people from their homeland, forced labor with no pay, families ripped apart and torn apart. Should we, as a country in 2020, should that be our mode of celebration? And collectively, our nation is saying no. We no longer will celebrate that because that is egregious in our past. But now we're getting a new mind to go forward and actually be sensitive to the needs of all the races that encompass us as the United States of America. So, what we're seeing is the deconstruction first with the idols, because when you look at the idols, you have a mental and psychological connection. So they're breaking down the idols to remove that connection. And once this is destroyed, then a new foundation will grow. And at that point, and only that point, will our nation actually embrace the fullness of what is called diversity. So for this, I celebrate. I celebrate the winds of change. Change is not easy. Change is not just something, oh, I just want to change. Change takes a habit. It takes a reformation of your mind. It takes a new foundation being laid, and it takes determination that you're going to work and operate within that change. So we are blessed to be able to be in those winds of change. So I challenge you to find your place and carve out that place and carve yourself into history at this time.
Well, well, thank you all for welcoming me back again. Um, I have different views from those who have spoken before me. I recognize, especially, that there is a problem of racism to be solved, not only in the American society, but also throughout the world. As I told you before, this event going on in the US, depending on how it is solved, there will be hope or no for the 20 million blacks that are still in slavery in Arab and Islamic countries, which is another campaign which I am on. I know that there is a change coming, but I disagree with the direction of that change. We have to be open to those who differ from us and let time take care of the result. There are people, powerful people, that are looking for any accident to seize it to their own benefit. I refuse the slogan, Black Lives Matter. I must tell you, I differ with all of you, because it will be used to hijack the progress of Black people. So we differ on how we are going to obtain these differences, because this program has made me understand directly from you how racism bites in the US. And the way you feel there is the same way the Afros feel in South America, where I live. And I also have problems with their understanding. So, as regard conspiracy theorem, the conspiracy is a theory. It's a theory used to interpret events. Any movement you create, there are people who will hijack it. Many of Malcolm X, I read that Malcolm X warned about the white liberals that carry the flag for the black people. The images I see is white people who call themselves liberal are hijacking the black cause. And I see it will only increase hatred. It will bring about rejection of black people. Later, they will put black people who they can control. I see the black leaders speaking in the US, and that they differ from the common black people as they speak out. The black leader seems not to be representing the black people in the US. Because when I see the ordinary black people interviewed, or when they complain, even within the masses, you interpret that they have no hatred for no race, but they want to participate in the system. They want to be families, they want education, they want health, but that is what they want, which is also what you are requesting. But that is not what the black leaders are saying. They throw the blame on others instead of understanding their irresponsibilities in the position of leadership which the blacks confer on them. That is where the conspiracy theory comes in. Then we begin to create different theory. What is happening? The leaders are saying this, and we are saying this, and we're seeing this diversity. So everyone can create the vocabulary they want. What I want is better lives for all. Just as the Anglican prayer book said, that men may honor one another and seek a common good. That is what I stand upon, not upon race, gender, or tribal, or creed, as base, but that this planet that now is being exploited to fully be shared among all of us.
Time. So there's this new thing. So if you run out of time, I had to come on in and interrupt.
Yeah, yes.
But yeah, thank you for that. So Beast, yep.
Well, I want to talk about this video right here. I want to talk about perception versus reality. Now you look at this black man right here, and most of you would assume just by his appearance and the way he's sitting there in that still shot, might have mid-level eloquence and subpar articulation.
Now that you have everyone's attention, and you also have said that violence is sometimes necessary in these situations. What exactly is it that you hope to achieve through violence?
Wow, it's interesting that you would pose that question like that, because this country is built upon violence. What was the American Revolution? What's our diplomacy across the globe? We go in and we blow up countries and we replace their leaders with leaders who we like. So for any American to accuse us of being violent, it's extremely hypocritical. Now, when we talk about violence, we talk about using self-defense. Why are you screaming and not allowing me to talk, ma'am? You asked me a question, allow me to answer. I'm in the process of answering, and I won't be that much longer.
I'm listening.
Okay. You asked what we hope to achieve. We're talking about self-defense. We're talking about 4 or 5 police officers choking someone to death and someone from the community having the training to intervene effectively. We're talking about saving lives. Nobody's talking about ambushing police officers. We're talking about protecting lives. And there's nothing more American than that. And when we talk about uplifting and upholding the Second Amendment, I think that you should be applauding me. seeing as though you guys are huge supporters of the Second Amendment, but it seems to be the hypocrisy of
Now, you can
America
pause
that
it
when
right there.
black people start talking about arming themselves and defending themselves.
Now, you see what happens when you assume. Soon as she realized this wasn't no ignorant nigga, because that's exactly what her thought was. You could see it pasted all on her face. She tried to shut him up real quick. But this black man, this brother, had enough sense about him, sensibility and civility, to rise above, as well as check her in the most gentlemanly and respectful manner, as well as dropping nothing but full 100% facts. What this brother is saying is what we're all saying. You could try to paint the narrative of us being extremists. All we're doing is following the footsteps of our founding fathers. It was put in the damn Constitution that as an American citizen, we have the right to overthrow the government if the government does not have the people's interest in mind. It was put there because they knew hundreds of years ago that man is corrupt. And at some point, this system may become faulty. So we should give them the right to reset. And that's where we are at now. We need one big ass reset across the nation. Because what things going now, normal ain't normal no more. Normal is some bullshit. We need to fix normal. Y'all want to go back to normal? Well, we got to change normal first before we can go back to that. Because what was considered normal, ain't nothing normal about that.
The talk is violence, but when white people grab assault rifles and go to our nation's, their state's capitals, it's all good.
All right. First of all, I've never talked about my stance on the Second Amendment. You know, that's my. I'm not criticizing you or praising you.
You don't support the Second Amendment? You don't support the Second Amendment?
That's not my role here to talk about my opinion.
I'm asking you a question. Do you support the Second Amendment?
The Second Amendment is part of our Constitution.
Do you support the Second Amendment, yes or no? A lot of your viewers would like to know if you support the Second Amendment.
That's fine. But that's not why we're here. And the only reason that I posed that first question to you the way that I did was that I watched you, talking on a bunch of different interviews today. And you said, burn it down. You said, burn it down. It's time. So that makes me think that you want to burn it down.
I said, if this country doesn't give us what we want, then we will burn down this system and replace it. All right. And I could be speaking figuratively. Okay. I could be speaking literally. It's a matter of interpretation. Like, let's be very real and let's observe the history of the 1960s. When black people were rioting, we had the highest growth in wealth and property ownership. Think about the last few weeks. Since we started protesting, there have been 8 cops fired across the country. You remember they were telling us that there was due process. That's why the cop that choked Eric Gardner to death kept his job and received raises for 5 years. Anytime a cop hurt a woman, hurt a child, hurt pregnant people, hurt our elders, there was always a call for due process. You must wait. You must wait. But the moment people start destroying property, now cops can be fired automatically. What is this country rewarding? What behavior is it listening to? Obviously not marching, but when people get aggressive and they escalate their protests, the country listens. That's when you're getting results. Cops get fired. Now you have police officers, you have Republican politicians talking about police reform. I don't condone nor do I condemn rioting, but I'm just telling you what I observed.
You're saying that that's what appears to be working and getting results right now, and maybe that is something for everybody to think about. I just want to put up this quote from Martin Luther King, and I've heard you talk about Martin Luther King versus Malcolm X, and you said that he was an anomaly, Martin Luther King. He said, "Let us be dissatisfied until that day when nobody will shout white power, when nobody will shout black power, but everybody will talk about God's power and human power." Do you agree with that?
I love the Lord. And my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, is the most famous Black radical revolutionary in history. And he was treated just like Dr. King. He was arrested on occasion, and he was also crucified or assassinated. This is what happens to Black activists. We are killed by the government. Well, and if you need context, if you read your Bible, it'll say that Jesus had feet like burnt brass and hair like wool. I don't know if you noticed, but our hair seems to be more like wool, and we seem to be likened to that color than anyone else. And you know, it's just
I don't know what else to tell you on
supremacy
that.
in America and in the world that would show us portraits of a pasty white Jesus. Jesus was not white. We all know this.
Jesus a little more like me.
You know, I mean, I think Jesus.
So we can go ahead and stop that video
Jesus
for right
to
now.
all Christians, and people interpret
I'm
him
gonna wrap
in,
this
in imagery in different
final
ways.
thought up.
Obviously, he was from the Middle East. We all know that. That's obvious. So,
so he wasn't a white man. We all know that, right?
I don't know how. I don't
we all know
see
Jesus
how. And he was
white,
Middle
right?
Eastern. Yes, he was Middle East. Yeah. All right, we're gonna go. Thank you very much. I appreciate where you're coming from, and I appreciate you coming on tonight. And I know you're very passionate, and that you want what's best. So everybody has different aims and different ways to get there, but I appreciate you sharing your thoughts.
I just want Black liberation and Black sovereignty.
Thank you very much.
Now you see, we need more individuals like that to step up, but as a whole, we need to be clear and concise in what we say.
And we need to start doing that to these white folks. Don't run up on them like they expect you to. Run up on them the least way they would expect, with eloquence and articulation and facts and no emotion. I don't care how many times they call you a coon, tar baby, jungle bunny. I've heard worse.
And we are here. That was opening statements, but I want to add on to what Mr. O was saying, was alluding to before we go into the main story. Yes, there's a lot of groups that has been taking over Black Lives Matter. Agree with it, 110%. But at the same time, I don't see nobody from the radical right helping out Black Lives Matter. I don't even see nobody who's wholly without foul in those marches. I don't see Joel Osteen. I don't even see who's that Black pastor that bought his daughter a $4 million mansion in California. What's his name again? TD Jakes. He's not marching with them. So yes, Malcolm X said yes, liberals is going to mess things up, and I agree. But also, Malcolm X also regret when a white liberal came up to her and she was like, what can I do so something like this won't happen again? Definitely when it's come from my people. He said nothing. But then later, Malcolm X regretted that. So let's go to the main story. All right, so now let's go ahead and get into the politics. Now everybody is more focused and geared on when we are up to the table. What is the first thing that we want? What should we ask for first? What should we ask for last? So I want to treat this discussion as not even discussion, a dialogue on what should we be asking for to be put on the table. So I broke it up into categories, and I didn't have no particular order, so I decided to just pick one randomly. So I'm gonna start with America's wealth. What is the first thing that for Americans' wealth? What policies would you want to be put on the table? I'm gonna start with Teach.
Okay. Well, when it comes to American wealth, one thing I would like the myth to be debunked. there's a lot of propaganda to give the impressions that African Americans are poor, they all live in ghettos, and they're not getting educated, they're not working, and they're just failing as a community. That is the false narrative. African Americans are working, they're educated, they're wealthy. You can find them in every class there is. You can find them in every educational level that there is. And in actuality, the African American female is the most educated of men and women in the United States. Now, what I would like to see put into practice, we talk about financial unity. Judge Mathis, as well as other celebrities, even local people that I know, they make sure that students graduating from high school are taught economics in terms of everyday living, how to balance a checkbook. They talk about credit card loans and indebtedness, and they even bring up Booker T. Washington's theory on owning land and knowing the difference between a $500 Louis Vuitton purse with $5 in it, or a paper bag that has $5,000 in it. So this is being pushed in our community. And I really take offense to the false narratives that Blacks don't know how to handle money. Blacks aren't being educated. Everybody comes from a single parent household, or everybody's on drugs. I grew up in the middle class. Everybody in my family worked. I really don't know people that strung out on drugs. I personally don't know people who use drugs. And I don't believe that I'm unique. But that is the community in which I came out, a very loving community where we work together to solve the problems in our community. Now, will I say our community is perfect? No. We do have problems or weaknesses or challenges that we must face. But to paint those challenges as 99% of Black America is a great misnomer. That is a great misnomer. So that's the mindset that I would like to see changed concerning finances.
All right, so so you just basically, before we even jump into it, let's get that stigma out the way, because you
Exactly.
do, rather than, because I think when you talk about Black billionaires and Black millionaires, first thing they go say, oh, Oprah, oh, Jay-Z, oh, P. Diddy. There are other people that has tech companies, that got, trucking companies that people don't even talk about. So
hotels,
yeah.
resorts,
all
other types of companies.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree, and I agree with that. I do, because I think the stigma is when we say the wealth is not, equal amongst, definitely towards us. That's the first thing he would say. LeBron James, look, he made it from out of nowhere. Look where he's at. He got his own school. Or they be like,
my point.
Yeah, go ahead, Beast.
That was going to be along with the stigma, we must also change the standards and practices that are currently in place, because there is a larger percentage of Black wealth existing that is unknown. And that's duly because of the access to that type of information, that type of setting, is not afforded to a lot of blacks. Even if you have the assets and everything, simple paperwork can stop you. So I feel as though after the stigma's been changed, we definitely need to go back through all the existing rules and regulations and requirements and qualifications, because a lot of them were set up systematically to at disadvantage to primarily blacks and all other American-born colors. Just keep it real.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
And if I may add, just very briefly, last year, 2019, African Americans spent $3 billion in Ghana to return home. But African Americans are butt booty poor and they're so uneducated and if they just had a job and but they spent $3 billion for 10 days or 14 days in Ghana, however long their trip was for 2019. Also, the gross national product, what do they say? African Americans contribute $3 trillion to the American GDP every year. But they're so poor, they're not working, they're not educated, they're just drug dealers and just what? No, we're working. We're making the money, we're spending the money, we're making them rich. $3 trillion is nothing to sniff at.
But do you think, Teach, that that's probably the issue right there is the stigma? Because just hearing that makes a whole lot of sense, because they use that. They use that stigma propaganda. so that we show them, like, look, we're gonna go out here and we're gonna they're not looking at the business aspect of it. It's more of the spending on like the new Jordans, the new Yeezys.
It's keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah, and they go and they go out there. Right, and then they go out there and they wait in long ass lines just to buy what's hot on the street, because they know when black people buy it or they put their endorsement on it, they know it's gonna go through the roof. Period.
It ain't official till you see one of us with it.
Right. And don't you think, Teach, that that's what's fueling it, that they keep saying that, and you got black folks that just don't.
It's the reverse psychology of it.
Yeah, and it's just having them motivate them just to do it.
We don't want your money.
Right.
We don't want your money, but you can order online. God damn it, you may not want to look at me, but you send this package to my white friend house.
Think about this. Think about this. The nail shops, mostly in the United States, and I also witnessed this in Africa, and specifically in Angola. And I'll tell you about that conversation in just 1 second. But every nail salon, be it Korean, they're mostly Korean or whatever other ethnic groups that service the nail salons in the black communities. Think about this. They leave their home, they come live in America, and every dollar they make is a black dollar. Think about that. They leave their home, come live in America, and every dollar they make is a black dollars. Only black women go to these nail salons. They give them so much money that they can live here and have a good life. It is a great misnomer. So I was in Angola, and same setup in Angola was here. They took me, I wanted to get my nails done, took me to little open market, and this guy, he was from Laos. I may not pronounce it correctly, but he said to me, I asked him, was business good? He said, yes, it's good. He said, but I don't like it. I said, why not? He said, I'd rather be home. I said, why don't you go home? He said, because I make all my money here. So every dollar he made is a black dollar. That black dollar supports his family, and the money he sends back home to Laos or Los, I can't say it properly. Okay.
Laos.
Every black dollar he made, he sends back home. So understand the power of the black dollar. What I see not happening as much is the pooling of the black dollars together to do larger ventures. That's what I don't see in large numbers. I see it because I'm exposed to it, but I don't see it in large numbers. There's a great distrust among us when it comes to dollars. I don't trust you. You don't trust me. Because we both have been brainwashed against each other.
Exactly. I was about to say, because of that brainwashing, you have to present it in a fashion to where anyone else involved sees the automatic benefit that they receive and can receive, while also feeling like they're not doing the brunt of the work or taking the brunt of the risk. Because we've been programmed to show everybody, including ourselves and our own people, that we somebody. We can never get over that hump of realizing if me and him just pull our money together and go ugly for like 2 good years, we could be living pretty for the next 15. I'll go ugly for 2 years. If it means 15 years of living pretty, shoot, yeah, let's roll. How ugly we need to be? We need to be ugly, fugly, or hideous. Because nigga, if you talk, how much money we talking? Because if we talking good money, we could be downright noxious and atrocious. I'm trying to get it. But you have to present that to them in order to get that response. They have to feel like, hell yeah, I can't lose. Even if this ain't shit, I'm still gonna win. Because we so paranoid and we so distrustful of everybody. Because our history has shown us that even our own kind will fuck us over for $1 or for a more opportune endeavor on their part. So you're constantly looking at everyone with a slant eye. So, once we eliminate that stigma, that mindset will follow, and we'll get over there and actually understand that what they're doing is what we're supposed to be doing. And it can functionally be done. I've seen setups where it's like you got 20 Mexicans living in one house, but you would never tell because everybody works different shifts. So at most, during every shift, there'd be maybe 4 or 5 people there, or the allotted amount, not to bring up suspicion.
That's true. I work with a few of them, but Mr. Jordan, you kind of quiet. Well, you got that on this, Mr. I know you in Argentina now. I know we talking about American wealth. What
it's the same. I am waiting for my turn. And
you up?
You up?
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to allow me to go in.
You good?
Oh, you good?
Yes,
Okay.
I am happy with the direction of this program today, because I know we are going to wake up our community. First of all, give me a minute to refer to the video that was shown about the guy, our brother who was on, Sean speaking. He spoke like I used to speak in the 70s and in the 80s. I listened to everyone he said. I'm very happy, although in this program we define in opinion, but he is on the right path. That he's saying, no, he's a revolutionary. And when he refers to Jesus Christ, he won me truly. The white Jesus being portrayed in churches was the painting of Da Vinci, who painted David, Jesus, the way he wanted, but the person he painted was his homosexual lover. So that is why he called that, the savior of the world. That is not the painting of the original Jesus Christ. We know that the ancient Jews, from Abraham to Moses, all of them were black people. They migrated from Africa. So there's no doubt. So I want to say that I'm consubstantiated with that young man who you showed briefly on Fox News. I'm very happy with him. That is, although I may not agree with the billion he won, but he has the right to say we will fight abandon the system. That's what is expected of him. And with respect to wealth, that is how all the Americas, North and South, were upon. But the US perfected it. And, you just have to struggle. How many Africans there? They made it. They built hospitals in Houston. And some of them are even building at home. So that is, American wealth is the only wealth in the world where all the whole planet can tap from. There's no doubt. So you see, so now everybody have to fight to be within. And as regard now, when we say African Americans, we even include immigrants from Africa. They all are now African Americans. So any statistics, show them these people from Africa. They're the ones that have most educated in the US according to statistics, and majority of them women. But there are many who came from Africa, who seized the opportunity in America. And everybody that goes, the Latinos are already going, seizing the same opportunity. And we want the original African Americans also to stand up and seize that opportunity too. That is what America is.
Gotcha. So, any last alibis on American wealth before we go to our next chopping block?
I would like to say, I would like to see more youth, more financially minded.
Speaking of which,
my
you say that.
my granddaughter, she's caught up in this pop culture. She's caught up in this pop culture. She's 20 years old this year, and she works. She's been working since she was 16, and she takes her paycheck and she go buy $400 weed. And but she works for it. It's hers.
It's her money.
But
yeah,
exactly.
her younger brother, he works also, and he's only 17. He just graduated last week, but he took his money and bought a car. And so she's feeling some kind of way because he's younger than her. She doesn't have a car, but he has a car, and he just graduated from high school. So she's caught up in that pop culture of looking beautiful. My grandson is looking like, okay, I need a car. I need to get here to there. I need my independence. And that's what that car meant for him. And I was very proud of him.
That is what we want.
And yes.
That
And
is what we want.
so
Progress.
But some, I'll just tell my story. In my family, like I said, we grew up middle class. We all drove at 16. We had access to cars. And by the time I was 18, I was able to buy my first car. So my grandson beat me by buying his first car at 17 before he becomes the legal age of majority. But also, You know, over the years, I bought property. One of the gifts that I gave to my son and my daughter, I bought each of them a house when they got 18. At 17, I bought them a car. At 18, I bought them a house. This sets them up to for generational wealth. And I just didn't buy a single house. I actually bought a duplex. So if they chose to live in one unit and they can rent out the other, they had extra income. Or if they didn't want to live in the unit, they still had two houses or two units that they can extract income from. So this is the advantage that I've given to my children. And I see that my grandchildren are falling in the same path.
That is example for the African American community. That is what you should tell them. The system allowed you; it can allow them too. This is what you should preach.
This is what we have fought for through the Brown versus the Board of Education, through Painter versus Sweat. We fought for all these so I can have this advantage, because when my grandmother came through, it was redlining. She couldn't own property. It was a law against her owning property. So we fought and struck those laws down so that I could be a benefactor of that struggle and of that fight. So it's not just I just want to do it. It was a process. It was a process that allowed me to do it.
Because of what you are doing, your grandmother has progressed more than our oppressors. And this is what we need to campaign inside the Black community.
Right.
And education and eliminating the stigmas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is the way to go. Don't you know that I'm fighting it in Argentina? It's a country where no black man ever held his head. And I'm in the system, fighting, standing. Mm-hmm. I'm a professor of computer engineering in 2 universities. You know, and then work also in the judiciary, all white, but I stand tall.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of humans, our next one is human rights, but we're going to take a pause for the calls and remind you there is a network that's coming up soon in the middle of July. Just to let y'all know. You remember that? Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about that right there.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and take a break, and we'll be right back. Yes, be on the lookout, ladies and gentlemen, for the network, the WET network that me and my boy Beast Johnson will be producing, and then can't wait to produce a show for Teach as well. Yes. So can't wait, man, can't wait. But now, right now, Mr. O, he's handling some things, so let's go ahead and get this started with the human rights. So when people talk about like equality for Black folks, it's sad that we always have to put in human rights, that we are a person, that we're not 3/5 of a human, which also I've been thinking about the Census Bureau. I always believe that Black folks outnumber white folks everywhere. That's just me.
Yeah, pretty much.
That is not me doing a conspiracy theory, ladies and gentlemen. I don't believe in that, but let's think about it. If you go back in history, look at how many slaves were brought here and how they outnumbered white folks. Not even facts, but the truth. But it's sad where we have to say that and be like, why are you killing us? Why are you killing, as Teach would say, why are you killing my uncle? Why are you killing my father? Why are you killing my mother? Why are you killing my daughter? Why are you killing my sister? Or me saying, why are you just killing the youth? I'm not going to be here forever. Teach is not going to be here forever. Beast Johnson's not going to be here forever. Do you think that there will be a day where we won't, when we saying we're human beings, damn it, that we don't have to put in human rights?
Well, I think that as long as people see themselves as adversaries, um, because they're not secure within themselves. They're always seeing the next person as competition for their livelihood. We're going to always have this fight. And I believe in one of the last a few segments, I can't remember which one, I talked about that the whites seeing their mortality, and they should now see that in this day and age, they have actually faced their fears and they have conquered their fears. And if they come into reality of their fear-based trajectory, then they can stop seeing other races as competition and actually embrace diversity. It's you did not make a false statement when you said that blacks outnumber whites, and this has been a long debated issue, and it started in the Constitution for the numbering of the people for representatives and votes, and the South heavily outweighed the North, and the South could always get their way because they, in sheer numbers, they just simply had more people than the North. So that was the reason why that 3/5 of a man was counted instead of as a whole man. So they could reduce the numbers of representatives, thereby reducing the number of votes. So that was their way, quote unquote, equalizing the playing field, so to speak. And even when I had the opportunity to move to the South, and I Googled the population and demographics of this particular city, it gave me the impression that it was a majority white city, town. And I mean, and if you look at the numbers, I'm thinking, oh wow, I'm going to an all white city. And when I got there, of course, the opposite was true. And I even had questions like, well, I'm a black woman. Where can I go get my hair done? Where can I go get my, my black hair products and things for my basic maintenance I needed to know. And they said, oh, you'll find something, and not really telling me that this was, a city that was diverse. It had a large black population and not the minuscule population that was portrayed on Google. So these numbers are not, or your thought is not imaginary. It is real, and it is portrayed to be a certain way. So until you put your feet on the ground and go and see for yourself, you're like, oh, that's not what they reported. It's not like that at all. So some things you have to just simply go and know for yourself.
Preach, teach, preach. That's the only thing I gotta say. Preach. Beach Johnson, got anything to add?
When it comes to human rights, I kind of speak for the extremist and the warrior. If you want peace, prepare for war. And I'm reminded of a song that David Banner did from an album that was so powerful that he got blackballed from the music industry because it was so pro-black. Like, if I played this album now at any protest, shit would get real. That's how pro-black and woke this man is when it came to this particular album. And he has the snippet at the end where he says, well, I believe it's from Minister Farrakhan, says, as long as they can kill us and go to Burger King and Wendy's and get a burger and go home, they're going to be cool. But when we kill them, when they kill us and then we kill them, then it'll be a problem. So when I think of human rights, I think of extreme measures. So if you want to really prove the point, I bet a couple of random white folk hanging from trees or hanging from random spots in random cities across the nation, I bet then that'll get folk attention about human rights. You can say whatever you want to about what I said. I don't condone it nor endorse it. I'm just stating that a lot of people and a lot of blacks have had that thought. And we have a generation now that is more than willing to execute a thought like that. So we need to get our words together and get in line, because if you really want to go there, this generation ready. They've been seeing what my generation before mine, and the generation before them had to go through. They ain't with it. They will rise up. They are more than ready to do it. So let's come to peace and get this thing ready, because we've more than been prepared for war.
Yeah. What you got to add, Mr. O?
Yes. Human rights. One of the heritage we inherited from the 20th century is this notion of human rights. Human rights have been violated throughout the world since the beginning of time. One thing the 20th century gave us is to allow us to understand really what is at the basic human rights. And throughout the world today, it is still being violated. What we can do is to continue speaking out, not on rights based on gender or color of skin, but on human. After all mankind descended from Africa. We are the same human race. And you see that the wickedness in Africa is the same wickedness in America, is the same wickedness in Korea, is the same in China and everywhere. So it's a human problem. And we just have to take up the cause and look at it humanly and call for it to be respected all over the world.
Okay. All right. So we still got a lot of time on to talk about human rights. So my thing for human rights, I just want to get out every time when it comes to us, we got to say, well, human rights, like we're some type of property, that we're some type of how
we
can
have
I
to prove
put it?
our humanity.
Right, like we're human, like we're ghosts that been on this earth for centuries.
Yeah, like at this point, it's very demeaning and disrespectful and just retarded. At this point, we're here. We've been here. How much? Yes. We built this nation and kept it running, and we keep the fucking lights on.
Yeah,
Black people are that loyal church member that give every Sunday, and if a line form up to donate, they there.
Yeah,
we keep the lights running.
I think that in Africa, you see the churches grown. Black people build big churches.
All right, go ahead, Teach.
Yeah.
You were saying, Teach?
I think as far as the humanity is concerned, it is something that we have to respect, one, for ourselves, and two, cause other people to respect it in us. And that's why I say that you cannot deny my humanity, that when you deal a deadly blow to me, I have every right to cry, be angry, and explore every human emotion that my creator gave to me. To harm me and expect me not to feel, not to react, that is denying my human rights. That's denying my humanity. And I say, how dare you? How dare you attempt to deny me? So it has to start with you. You have to know your human rights. You have to be willing to stand in your human rights unequivocally, no matter how someone is projecting to you or projecting to your race. In that dignity and power, you have to stand in who you are. Like that gentleman in the tape, I like his stance because she was combative with him. She was trying to dominate and control the conversation, but he pushed back and he stood his ground.
That is the work
and
of journalists.
she, after a while, she had to. Right. But she had to back up.
Yeah,
she had to back up and begin to agree with him and showed that she agreed. So I saw, if you don't stand your ground, they will walk all over you. And so with human rights, Malcolm X, he was the one that, as we were fighting for civil rights in the 60s, he went to the UN to elevate the problems in the United States and put it on the level of human rights. So in that elevation, it opened up other countries to understand what we were going through in the United States. And I want to draw in some conversation with Mr. O. He's been throwing this out there. We just been ignoring it. But he talks about constantly about the slave trade in the Arabic nations and how this uprising in the United States very well may have an impact. How it would impact it, I don't believe he has stated. But one of the things I do know, that whatever happens to the African in the United States, in a good way, it gives hopes to Africans around the world. So in some ways we lead, and how we lead is copied in terms of the resolution that other communities will utilize it as a model for their own problem. So looking at the problem of the in Libya and other countries that is enslaving Africans today, we have to look at one critical thing. And I've seen movies, and I have my husband has friends that has gotten caught up in this slave trade. And the thing is, on the ground, they're selling these tickets to America. They're selling these tickets to Europe. And they are Black people from Nigeria, Ghana, Ivory Coast, Sierra Leone, Mali. And they have a highly comprised network that they identify individuals that just want to go to the US or to Europe. And so they say, oh, we can get you there. We can get you the visas, so forth and so on. There's actually a book by Dr. Lang Fafa Damfa. He is the current director of Alkaland of the African Union. And I wish I had it right before me, but I'll get it. But anyway, I met Dr. Damfa in 2012 when I first began to be the representative to the African Union. And the last time I met him was in 2018. He gave me his book. And the book was detailed on how he narrowly escaped being a slave in Libya. And he ended up getting to France by the skin of his teeth. But he was sold from one dealer to the next, and they were all Black men. So he has a testimony, a powerful testimony, because he did end up in France. He did get his education, and now, like I said, he is the director of African Academy of Languages, Culture and Languages of the African Union. So there are powerful testimonies of individuals that escape and are successful, but then there's those that don't escape and there's not successful.
All right. Human rights was a deep one. Human rights was a deep one, but I think this one, I think we skate by it, and we're definitely going to address it. But we're going to take a little pause for the calls once again, and everybody take a load on, take a little rest. And once again, we got to keep letting y'all know there's a network that's coming soon. Just let y'all know. Yeah. Gotta let y'all know. Before we get into our next subject, for all you small business owners, podcasters, whatever, that want to get their brand out there, I want to show y'all something. Bam! Unfortunately, as you can see the live part right here. If you want to sponsor a segment on this show or sponsor one of the panel's segments, please send us a message on our Facebook page. It is the Alamonte Show. Message us, send us your credentials, and then we can book your sponsors onto here. So if you want to see your sponsors on here, that's covering my face. I need to work on that, so forgive me. Please message us, and we will get back to you, and we will give you the rates, which we're going to keep private over here until I get the unless I get the approval from the panel, but that's something that we're going to be working on. But if you do want your business, your show, your podcast, whatever, your brand new book, please message us on our Facebook page, the Alamonte Show. So I just want
as well, if I could just throw a shout out as well to any vloggers, any content creators, animation, music, arts, whatever it is that you want to do or you want to bring out, come holler at us.
Yes.
We are here for you.
Most definitely. So now let's go into this one touchy I think get brushed under the rug and people don't realize it. Political agenda and party. Now I want to lead it on in. People think a lot of blacks are part of the Democrat Party. Me, do I lean Democrat? I'm not gonna lie. Yes, I do. Do some of the majority of the things that we ask for that they say that they're gonna do, that they do it? Majority of times they don't. But here's where the right gets it wrong. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I know they say white supremacy, takes both sides of the argument. I'm sorry. I got to put them with the face, period. So this is where the right gets it wrong. They say that black folks need to get off the black plantation, but they don't realize when you tell them to do that, you in Master's house. You still living in the basement. You still taking the leftover scraps that he had left over. You still sleep with the dogs. Then not to mention the only time when you lay in the Master's bedroom is when he's ready or she's ready to get into the bed while you just warmed up the spot. So where are the alternatives? What should we as a black people, should we create our own political party, which I'm kind of leaning toward, or
I would agree a political party, but not a pro-black political party. As the front runners, I feel as though we should establish a third or a fourth party just to bring balance. Like, all parties should be represented. To say the blacks need their own is very racist, and that would just open the door for all other races to demand the same. And that's not a scene right now, so I don't honestly expect that. But our voices do need to be heard, not just when the stats fit, not when the majority rules in our favor.
Right.
So I feel as though we should have at least a third party. If y'all want to do all races politically represented, I'm cool with the idea if everyone's on board for it. But I don't feel as though the black people need to be the only ones saying we deserve our own political party. No.
So this is what my solution to that is a super PAC.
Yeah,
you got a lot of super PAC. Yeah, you got a lot of super PACs out there that basically got these politicians in their pockets. This is what Claude Anderson had been saying, but the Black Conscious Movement, well, that side, they talk about it, but they ain't being about it. In the words of Chief, hopefully I said that right.
They ain't got the right pocket.
Right. Be about it. So, like with Black Lives Matter, like when they first got started, and then they kind of like dwindle a little bit. I was saying, why don't y'all just turn into a super PAC? Groom the protesters, the leaders, groom them to be politicians, get them into freaking elected positions, and that's where you get your influence. And then even for the politicians that's already up in there, rent them. I need to buy one of Claude Anderson's books, but I've been watching his videos.
Do what they do, but do it better.
Right. Go ahead, Mr. O.
Yes. And now I'm very proud of you all, guys. I'm very proud of you. You see, what Bista said, I totally endorse it. That is what should happen in democracy. You need to float a political party not based on race or gender. There is need for an alternative. The establishment established this two-party system. They are powerful. They will eat you up. But you can start now with create this very moment is a need for create another political party that has another thing to offer Americans. You may not produce a president in 50 years, but you'll be a president. And when you produce a president, the real revolution will come. So I'm very proud now, really, of belonging to this panel bouquet. I see reason, and we are contributing greatly to the America of today and even to the world. So, I have nothing more to add. I'm very happy with what you are saying. That is it.
It's funny he speaks on the precedents as an African. I hope, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is the most recent information I'm hearing globally speaking as far as Africa. The African government established the law to allow them to reclaim the farmlands from the white South African.
Yes, I am connected because I was involved in the campaign against apartheid, and in fact, so I know I'm following it. I say that.
I say that's what we need to do, because what I respect about the Africans is that after apartheid, everybody saw the same thing. Y'all gonna rise up, y'all gonna ride out, and y'all was like, nah. Y'all all collectively decided we're gonna move forward, and those that we can, we're gonna put them in power. And y'all got to the point where y'all pulled a white man shit. Hey, we're here for your shit. You got to move. Huh?
No, that's a different thing.
But see, as an American, as a Black American, hearing that y'all got the paperwork, because that's the power in America here. Paperwork. You get that thing on paper, you get it notarized, and it's official. It's as if God said it himself. Yes. So y'all got the right paperwork to allow that physical manifestation. That's what we as Blacks need to do. And that, as far as the political parties, that need to be our motif. We need to, if we really want that change, Like you said, we need to get the super PAC together and we need to groom them. We need to get them in place so that the right precedents, not just precedent, but the right precedents are made.
Look, I want to add something to what you are saying. I will show you where you can begin. Tulsa, that's supposed to have been Black Wall Street, or that's what Africa. It's time to revive it. That is where that could shake up the system.
Right.
No, get some black brains together and say we want to recover Tulsa and build a Tulsa was being planned to create an economic hub with Africa, and they destroyed it. It is time now to refloat it, and that will give us a better and stronger identity. We should allow Asians, Black, Latino to be there, but it should be our own civilization.
Right.
Tulsa, that is where we begin from.
I have a more current word, Wakanda. Black Panther film.
I can't do it because I'm holding my phone by the hand, but yes.
Wakanda forever.
Forever, baby.
Yeah. The thing about Wakanda is it was portrayed as the ideal Black world where they were freely able to close themselves off from the rest of the world and exceed in dynamics and science and technology. Everything that they needed was self-contained. And so they had good self-esteem, they had good self-identification, self-love, and self-determination. Wakanda is the prototype of what Africa can be, and or what African that find themselves outside of Africa can be in their communities. Now, some of the forerunners of Wakanda were people like W.E.B. Du Bois. He pushed for a separate society, okay? And he was laughed at, he was mocked. They was saying that he was Uncle Tom. And because of the psychology in the United States was that if you're Black, you're second class, you're second citizen. If it's white, it's right. And so we went through that whole desegregation process, because before desegregation, we were segregated. We were Wakanda, and there were many Tulsas. And so aside from the white mobs destroying those various cities, then you had the Blacks that had that air of mistrust, or they wanted to assimilate. And to assimilate, you had to shed your Blackness, because now if you can associate with whites or be seen somehow or another, that gave you a level of prestige. So they sold their souls. They sold their Blackness in the name of desegregation. And Malcolm X also was a forerunner of talking about closed societies. And for the people of the United States to do things all Black meant that you were low class, that you weren't acceptable to the white people. To go to an all Black school meant that you were getting a less than education. To go to an all Black church meant that you really weren't serving God, because after all, Jesus is white. So why would you go to an all Black church? So there's a lot of psychological damage that we have to overcome in order for us to really fully understand that Wakanda concept. And in our current society, we have the Amish and the Mennonites, and those type of societies that you'll see throughout the South, and they're close closest products, and they have become billionaires. But the average person, they look homely. They don't look, they're not part of popular culture. But when you want chicken and you got a little extra money, you want Amish chicken. It's produced in a closed society. If you want some good handmade wood furniture, you want to go get some Amish furniture, because these people, they produce commodities that the world will buy. And they don't have the stigma of feeling less than. They have made themselves great by being separate. And that is the lesson that we have to learn here in the United States and also Africa, that you have to really embrace self-identity. And I'll tell you, because there's a large Nigerian population in my town, and they're doing some great things. They're doing some things that I think other African Americans need to look at and model. But they called me in as a consultant because they wanted to popularize a Nigerian restaurant. And it had a Nigerian name, which I can't remember. But their debate was whether or not they should make it an American name. And I said, no. Why? I said, if you go to Adiamo's, which is an Italian restaurant that features Italian cuisine, they have Italian menus. So as an American, you go to an Italian restaurant that's called by Italian name, and you're looking at Italian menu, and you can't pronounce any of this stuff. And I said, you have a Nigerian restaurant with a Nigerian name, with a Nigerian menu. And what that would do for the people, especially if the food is good, one, for us Africans, it makes us familiar with the language. It makes us familiar with the culture. When we look at the menu and it's in Nigerian, the waitress or waiter will pronounce it for you. You say it a few times, you get hooked on the food. You're going to tell your friends. They're going to come in and they're going to look at the menu. They're going to be able to pronounce the word. So no, have your self-identity in the forefront. If you're going to have your Nigerian restaurant in America, it needs to be a Yoruba name, a Hausa name, Koso, however, whatever ethnic group you represent. Let it be in your name and let it be in your language. Because and I'll say this to you, Morris, you've heard this, but I say this to every African: speak your language. Because when you speak your language, I, Anita, get to hear the voice of my ancestors. It is power. And it's powerful for you to speak your language, even if I don't understand what you're saying. You speak to my soul. You speak to my DNA, and we will understand. And I'm going to go off on a little tangent, but it's necessary for me to bring this point home. When I was in Ohio, I used to do projects with The Ohio State University, and we had a Kwanzaa program. And this program, I'm a head counter. Understand me? I'm a head counter. We had 13 different African nations represented in this particular Kwanzaa program. And any of my programs, I always insist that whoever's on the program to do their part of the program in their native language. We do not want any French speaking. We do not want any English speaking in this program. So I had a lady from Mauritania who was Pular, and she speaks Pular, and she sang a song. And the only two people that knew Pular was her and the man that accompanied her on the instrument. In the middle of the song, I'm going to tell you what the ancestors do. In the middle of the song, everybody, it was about 250 people at this particular event. everybody jumped up on their feet and began to clap their hands like they were in church. A spirit of joy went through the place. And it was not until she had finished her song that I asked her what was she singing about, because she sang in Pular. And she said, I sang about brotherhood and unity.
Wow.
Brotherhood and unity in Pular to 250 people that broke down into 13 different ethnic groups.
Wow.
Everybody, by the way of the Spirit, heard what she said. So I challenge each and every native-born African that when you come in the presence of an African American or African born outside of Africa that have been stripped from their language, speak your language, because you speak to their soul. They may not understand you with their ears, but their DNA receives you. Their DNA rejoices, because that is that long memory and connection.
Teach always bringing the fire.
Yeah.
I had to tell the fire department don't come on this show, so I told my boy Too Smooth Water don't come on this show, because you know Tisha gonna bring that fire. So we're entering into our final segment, and this one, yeah, I won't gonna leave this one out. Reparations. But before we jump on in, I'm gonna have to ask this early. Wednesday, is everybody gonna be able to come on the show?
Yeah.
Next Wednesday. Today is Wednesday.
I mean Friday. I'm sorry, y'all. Friday.
I'll be here.
Yeah.
I'll be here.
Okay.
If you invite me, I'll be here.
All right. So the big announcement that I want to make to each and every one of you, and also everybody who's watching the show, I am officially opening a merch store for this show. So all the proceeds will go to the panelists that's on this show, as well as I'm already going to tell you what I'm going to do on my end is just reinvest in the show much more, to have much more better equipment, to have more panels, and to basically expand the brand. But yes, merchandise, I'm about to launch it. I'm going to have the panel look at it, get their approval and all that great stuff. So look out for our stuff, because I'm going to start advertising it on this show. I told you, we're going to do some big things on here. And my phone just going off. But going ahead and jump on into to reparations. I'm going to have Mr. O, you take the floor.
Reparation is a word that has been used up and down. But how do you do it? Many blacks in America are also descendants of slave traders, of slave owners. Africans also connect a lot of wealth. Some kingdoms from Nigeria, from Angola, from Mali, they sold their people. Could they also be made to pay reparation? The Arabs that sold Africans to the Western world, they too should pay reparation. So let us make it clear who is to pay for who, or how is it to be paid. I prefer healing than the word reparation. It's my opinion. But if it will be reparation, look, it will hit both sides. Because if your ancestor too was a slave owner, then you must pay. And then we cannot ask those who did not own slave to pay those who were not slave. That is why I prepare for healing. Healing. This is our heritage. We inherited this evil. Let us go into healing. And then where there is problem, we begin to put solution. Especially black colleges to be well funded. You know, our fight against racism. This is reparation, not economical. Now, this is my opinion. But we cannot hold the whites alone responsible when we Black South Africa contributed to it.
I would actually have to agree with Mr. O on this one when it comes to the financial aspect of reparations. I feel as though if you really wanted, if we was really about true reparations for all blacks here currently and those who have been here since slavery, no matter of your descendant, your ancestry, I feel as though in lieu of a financial payout to individual blacks, because then everything that Mr. O spoke of would automatically come into play. And by way of DNA testing to prove who was actually of African ancestry. And then from there, you will start to realize, oh, well, that black person should actually pay this black person, which would just cause more infighting. So I feel as though in lieu of a financial payout, better financial access should be allowed to blacks, better financial education, immediate financial payout to all black neighborhoods and communities for upkeep and renovation and upgrades.
Good.
That's where the money, instead of, because I've always been on the give them what they need so they can work for what they want. So instead of me paying you a check for an inordinate amount of money, I'm just going to have these people come in and completely redo your entire community and upgrade everything you have to proper quality, not better quality, proper quality. You need to be living a proper life. So that's what we need to take that finance so we can avoid, like I said, avoid those things, everything that Mr. O spoke of, because those are all valid points. And those are a lot of things that blacks have actually discussed on the topic of reparations. What about the blacks that, what about the blacks that sold us? What about them? How do you take that into equation?
All right. Teach, look like you really ready to answer. Go on ahead. Got the floor.
You know, I always lean on my grandmother. My grandmother said, I'll never see reparations in my time, but she said me to get my money. And if Reese Johnson, if you don't want your money, I will take your money. And Mr. O, if you don't want your money, well, I'll take yours too.
I can respect I want to take too, but I want to make sure I get a check. Because I'm gonna keep it there. I don't want to mess around and find out I'm one of them ancestors of a slave owner. That'll make me mad. I don't give a hold on. I own niggas.
Well, one thing.
Hold on. I've been a nigga all my life. I own niggas.
I mean, there's a lot of controversy about blacks owning slaves, and I have to always put it into perspective in terms of where they were and why they did it. For black slave owners in the United States, for anyone to own a number of slaves, there were few and far in between. It was not the norm, especially in a southern state. So you had situations where a mother, father, sister, brother, uncle may indeed have purchased their wife, their husband, mother, father, sister, uncle, or child. So they sold slaves. A free slave could buy another slave, and usually it was a family member. We hear about that all the time, but somehow or another we don't put the dots together. And then if a man buy his wife and buy his children, and he has some land where he's doing some tenant farming because blacks could not own land, and he put them all on the land to work because they got to eat. They did not have a welfare system. So to say that blacks own slaves, they were owning slaves and blah, blah, blah. Yes, most likely it was a husband, wife, sister, brother, uncle, cousin, neighbor, type situation, and they still had to work the land because they still had to work. They still had to eat. So that covers the African American slaveholders on American soil. Now let's go back to Africa. Let's go specifically, and I had the opportunity to talk to the chief of Mampong in Ghana. He talked about how his family owned slaves or participated in the slave trade. And we asked the question, how come you didn't come get us? That's the number one question in the African-American mind, that Africans did not fight for us. How come they didn't come get us? And he basically said that if you strike your enemy and they fall down, we care not of where they fell. And that was a general attitude from the slave catchers, slave owners in his region. Now, region to region, the slave story is a little different. When you get down into Cameroon, they will tell you that they didn't sell off their brother to the slave trade. But in Nigeria, oh yes, even after 1806 or 1808, where the British Empire declared the transatlantic slave trade to be illegal, there were kings in Nigeria that still practiced the trade. And that's when they began to smuggle slaves. So you have different stories in different regions. And then if you go into parts of Gambia, they will tell you they didn't even know a slave trade existed. So part of this is what history the community was able to tell themselves. Some stories of denial, some stories of, yes, we sold you. And even you come into contact with some Africans, well, our family never went into slavery. The Ashanti people will tell you that, yes, we sold you. We made war with you, and you are our victim. They have no problems. And I even got mad one time, and this young man was trying to, you know what men do, and he wanted me to bring him back to America. And I said, you remember you told me you were so proud that your family were the slave traders, and you didn't go to, that your family didn't, your lineage did not go through the slave trade, but I'm somehow a second-class citizen because I'm a descendant of a slave, but you want this descendant of a slave
to bring you to
hook
America.
Up with you, to bring you to America. No, Negro, come the way I came.
Yep.
Come the way I came.
Yes. See.
Okay.
Yes.
So
when you finish, allow me. You know, since you touched Africa,
I will. And so, so for me, as far as reparations are concerned, there's enough people or enough pots for me to dig in. I want my rubber from the Congo. I want my cocoa from Ghana. I want my diamonds from Angola. I want whatever comes out of Cameroon, because I'm 34% Cameroonian. I got a little bit of Nigerian. I have Angola and Congo all mixed up in there. A little bit of Ghana, Nigeria, and what's that? Senegal. Okay. So I feel with my DNA match, I have land all across Africa, and I would like some of it back for my children and their children and their children. That is part of my heritage that was stolen and stripped from me. So as far as reparations, yes, money. The European nations can give me money. The African nations can give me land. and resources.
That's
Because
proper
I look
compromise.
at the children of Israel, when the story says, when they left up out of Egypt, they left with everything to start a new life.
Yeah.
So I want everything. I'm not going to deny my grandmother anything. I'm going to get everything for our bloodline.
All right, Mr. O.
Mr.
Yes.
O.
Look, my sister, do not exonerate black slave owners in the Americas. I told you once, the first person to enslave black people in the US was a black man from Africa. And with respect to African contribution to slavery, I've always condemned it. Not all the tribes. There's nothing like denial. We know ourselves in that continent. We know those who sold their people. I have a pride. I told you once, my tribe was never conquered. We were inside the hinterland of the Creeks. You know, never conquered. We did not participate in slavery. My ancestors did not sell their own. There was servitude which was inside, internal, but never did we, as an institution, carry our own and sell it to, no, because we were told that we are a Morivier. That means the children of the king. We are a nation of the nobles. Some people are even tracing us to the pharaohs. So we cannot sell the child of a king. That is why our small ethnic group, we did not participate, and the slave trader did not cross the line into our territory. We did not participate. That's why I'm very clean, because we are noble. But there are tribes like that too in Africa that did not participate. But there are tribes, even not all Yoruba. The Yoruba guys from Oyo, from Egba, and those in Lagos, they are the one that were selling their own people. The Igbos sold some of their brothers. The Calabar people, they were the real slave traders. So
Okay.
That's why I want to bring up those points.
All right, so let me go ahead and interject. So when you say that it started from Africa, that it was black people that sold their own people to the States, which not even denying that, but here where the rubber meets the road for me, it's who profit off it the most.
That is the best businessman that makes the money. No, that's not justification for Africans not protecting their own. But I mean, one white man will be followed by 100 blacks carrying guns after him into the jungle, right into one king, and carrying their own people. It's not justifiable.
But here's the thing: they wanted more, and they profited off it more. Yeah, but they're the ones that went down there and just got the slaves, and they're the ones that profited off the most. Why is it? Yeah, but hear me out. But hear me out. Why don't you see like a Wells Fargo over there? All these big businesses that's over here in the States is not over there in Africa. Like, if it was such a big concern and such a big deal for them, then the same things that's going on here, like all the Rockefellers, sorry about the helicopters going on back here, but like all the family that have heirs here that still making billions, that's still privileged off of slavery. Why is that not over there in Africa with all the Africans selling all their own people over there to them? So there is a big disconnect.
They know. Look, even today, Africans, before you capture them, now they throw themselves into slavery. And at the end of saying that you want your land back like the Jews, no. Do you think Africa wants the African Americans back home? When even those who are at home are struggling. No, look, build America.
I think what he's asking Mr. O is like the names that he referenced. Like you said, if the first black was sold by a black, and that is a culture and a system that's still going on currently within Africa, are there African equivalent names that like Okonkwo's, Achibes, Adasanes, think African lineages that were built off of slavery that still profit and still flourish, like the Rockefellers and the Johnsons and the Trumps,
Fords to the Chevrolets,
the countless American wealth.
They are few. That's the love. That they are capitalists. They are very few with respect to the population of Europeans, Americans. So they are good businessmen. They knew how to multiply their money, banking system, and all.
So what I'm hearing from you is,
don't let go of that, they would have been worse.
What I'm hearing from you is it's not.
You can now see how Africans. You see Dubai. Half of Dubai is African money looted by African politicians. No, we must identify our enemy.
Okay.
What?
Go ahead, teach.
What I wanted to say, Morris said one big word, big business. People tend to think on the African side that it was just a free-for-all, but it was big business. There were contracts, and I'll speak about this region that I know. In Ghana, there were many contracts there between the Europeans and the various Black ethnic groups. When the Portuguese first came to Ghana, they built a fort with the permission from the Elmina people. The Elmina people were the coastal people. So they got a contract for the Elmina people to build their first slave fort. Then they contracted with the Ashanti people, which are the people in the hinterland, the people in the mountains. And it's a saying that if you live on the sea, you have never seen the mountains. And if you live in the mountains, you have never seen the sea. In other words, the Elmina people stayed within their territory, their boundaries, what was given to their creator, that was their land. And the Ashanti people lived up in the mountains. So it was the Ashanti people that actually fought and went further into the hinterlands that destroyed the Dinshira and the Oyo and Brong people. And these are the people that make up, or these are a percentage of the people that make up what we call African Americans. You hear famous names, but you never hear the Dinshira, never hear of the Brong. These people were wiped out of what we now know as Ghana. These were the people, they would wipe out whole ethnic groups. Okay, so when I talked with the chief of Mampong, they boasted, but look at what they traded our lives for. They trade their lives for guns, for liquor, for consumable items. So what they traded could not equal the wealth that the white people traded our labor for cash.
Yes,
that was a building wealth. So these slave traders, they took consumable wealth. How many times can you eat a watermelon?
I mean,
many times, because you can.
How many times can you buy watermelon?
Right.
Yeah. Look.
Well, I mean, each watermelon has the seeds. You can replant them and get more. But my point is that they traded consumable wealth versus wealth that can last the next generation.
That is what they valued. That it was a very high value for them. So that is their riches. So the other one, when you are a trader, you make a lot of money. As for the Ashantis, in fact, the first Portuguese that landed in Ghana, they were not slave trader. It was the Ashanti boatmen that brought Christopher Columbus to the Americas. They showed him the road.
Yeah, but what business do the Ashanti have now? That's what I'm getting at.
Because
What Wells Fargo, what land do they have over there?
The Ashanti, let them remain in poverty for selling their people. Let those kingdoms remain in
Right,
poverty for
exactly.
selling their people.
Exactly.
So basically, we've named, you've answered the question. The Ashanti are the Rockefellers
selling your own people.
Right.
Let them, that is punishment is on them today.
Right.
To today.
Right.
So to add to teach, so to answer everyone's question, the Ashanti are the Rockefeller of Africa, and they are the Africans that would be deemed fiscally liable for reparations.
Angola as a country as a whole.
So when it comes to Angola, there would be another tribe as well. So we're going by tribes. We're going by tribes then.
The Angola
yeah.
But go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, well, the thing, the Ashantis will be responsible for that west part of Africa. You know, there's so many others that when you get into Senegal and Gambia, you know, each country would have more than one ethnic group that participated in the trade. So, it's enough to go around.
The Soge Empire, the Osman Fodio Empire in Nigeria, they sold through the left side. They captured those experts in algebra from Mali. He's the one that sold out grains. The Yoruba sold Shango, experts in metallurgical. They are the first people that made possible the machines built in the US.
Right.
Look, I say let Africa pay for it.
Oh, well, don't worry. People in that's still probably from America going to pay too. So let's not forget about that. It's like Pablo Escobar when he was putting up his drugs with the Contras and all that stuff. Yeah, the people that was distributing all his stuff up in America, guess what? They got it, and he definitely got it too. So. So
now, what some African countries have been doing for African Americans, they've been offering, I think 1 or 2 countries that actually have a program in place for repatriation and citizenship, lands at a lower rate. You know, I was made.
It's politics. I want to see it happen. I know Ghana is offering.
I've heard about that as well.
Well, people are moving.
Don't do it anymore.
I know a lot of African Americans who have repatriated, and you know, things that they're saying. But what problems that's coming out of the repatriation, like you asked, you know, do Africans really want Americans there? In some communities, yes. Other communities, no. They see them as the thing that we've heard in America so long. They're taking our jobs. They're taking this land. You know, there's all this infighting and jealousy that's cropping up. Yeah, so it's like you can't win for losing. And that's why I have been
Teach, I think she's frozen. Hopefully that could get fixed. Teach.
Yes. Teach.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead, finish your point, Teach, and then we're gonna go into the final thought.
Okay. I forgot what I was gonna say, but there's enough people or enough ethnic groups to go around.
Yeah.
To require.
Oh, she froze again. Oh, yeah, she goes. She's back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So with that, we're going to go into the least favorite part of the show, the final thought. And Mr. O, you're going to be the first to deliver.
Well, I congratulate. Yes, thank you very much. I'm also being educated about the situation in Latin America. I'm very happy to be with this program. This program today is better from my point of view. I'm very happy at the direction that this program is going. And I recommend the brother who spoke about war, listening to Bob Marley's War, his songs, and also is the song of Stand Up for Your Rights. I danced it in those days when I was campaigning against apartheid. So I pray for the blessing of God on this program and your endeavors. You said you have a project. I pray to God for the project to be successful in whatever we can do I can do with my presence. I offer it to you. I thank all of you. We have already spoken about the points that of interest, and I look forward to being with you again on Friday. So thank you very much for accepting me.
My final thought is about compromise. One thing I've learned in my journey in the music industry is that as long as the necessary people are put on paper to receive any payment that is possible, nobody's going to get sued. Nobody gets mad. So before we go to blows and get a complete clusterfuck of chaos, let's try to find a civilized compromise. There's enough land and assets and finances for everyone to live comfortably and live like proper humans. So if you don't want war, you don't want a clusterfuck, you don't want to deal with the chaos that you think you're in right now, come to the table, civilized, and let's find a compromise. Everybody can be happy and nobody has to feel offended. That's my thought.
I'm doing something out of character, I started the show with the opening statement, so I want to be the one in the middle. My final thought is, Kanye, sit your ass at home. I'm sick and tired of hearing your mouth. I don't like your music no more. From the previous show that we did last week, everybody know how I feel about this man. When you sit there and say slavery was a choice, you're done with me. And then hear you saying this stupid crap, sitting there saying, well, I'm going to run on the platform of Trump and Bernie Sanders. That makes completely no sense whatsoever. And you passed the deadlines for even qualifying to freaking run for president in many different states. If you would have ran and did all the things you need to do, meet all the requirements that requires you to run for president, I would do anything in my power. Listen to me. Anything in my power to stop you. I will use this show and platform just to stop you and make you look bad. And people going to be like, oh, he's come on, Morris, he's a brother. No, look what that brother represents. And that's another thing we black people need to get out of thinking. When you got your own that looks exactly like you, that sit there and just say, be like me, I'm independent, don't think like everybody else, but then when they down on their luck, I'm not the type to kick somebody when they're down, but when you was kicking me down when I was trying to pick myself back up, I'm not going to help you. Kanye is one of those people. If you think we got bad now, imagine if we would have had Kanye in the office. Don't get me started on Kim Kardashian. That's for another day. But Kanye, sit your ass down. Shut up. Go back to making that so-called music that you do. Because I'm still deleting your songs off my playlist still to this day. Every time I hear your song, I feel like I want to throw up. Or I just tell my girlfriend just to change it. Or anybody else of that matter. So Kanye, take your free thinking ass in your big mansion and stay there. Remember, there's a disease going on, and maybe a mask. This mask, to me, it means me staying healthy, but for you, shut up, put a muzzle on it. And that's my final thought.
Well, we've come to the end of this hour, and I have to lead with self-love, self-identification, self-determination brings about self-sufficiency. And if we do this individually, join hands collectively, and know, let's take a knowing. The creator of this universe created this world for us all to live in. And there's enough space, there's enough resources, there's enough of everything for everyone to have a piece of it. I believe it was the comedian Steve Harvey that did the calculation of how many people times the square foot of the world, which gives every individual 6,000 acres. And some people have thousands of acres. But if everyone just got into their spot and used the land, exploited the land, developed the land for whatever the land could do for them, we could all be happy. I do agree with Beast Johnson. We have to come away from being in competition for our basic human rights of life and liberty. We have to come away from the competition and develop our own selves. So my final thought is self-love. Love yourself, because when you love yourself as a person, as a family, your community, your greater society, that is the freeing power to negotiate every aspect of your life. Remember, your culture is your first line of defense. Good night.
Thank you so much, Teach. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and joining into the show. Thank you. We're about to head on out, and we leaving in a timely manner. It's not going overtime, so I'm over 9 minutes. So other than that, thank y'all, everybody, for tuning in. We will be back on Friday. Please go to our Facebook page, look up the Alamonte Show, see the comments. Also, I'm still gonna be posting up the Alamonte Show shorts, and I'm encouraging the panel to pull up their content too as well.
Alamonte, how do you write it?
Oh, the Alamonte Show.
Yes, Alamo.
Is I give it. I will write it to you in the private chat real quick.
All right. Okay, please.
Yeah. It is sent. You can look it up right there on the
okay, Alamonte.
Mm-hmm.
That's an Italian name.
Yeah, everybody be telling me that. But
yeah, because Monte is mountain in Italia.
Oh wow.
And yes, and it contains many names. Piemonte, Viamonte is using Italian surnames. Tagliamonte.
It's funny because my aunties actually who named me, my mom and dad, they were so distressed, and my auntie just named me. She said, "Name him Donnell Lamonte Morris." Crazy fact for you about me. But other than that, I'd like to thank the panel for coming on the show. Mr. O, thank you. Teach, yes. Thank you. Beast Johnson, thank you so very, very much for everything y'all do. Can't wait to come back on Friday and do this all over again.
Yes, of course.
Mm-hmm. So everybody, y'all have a good one. Everybody
right.
have a good one. We're outro. Catch you later. Bye-bye.
Y'all be safe.